Joining us for the first time on Broncos Cam, we're pleased to welcome one of the greats of all time, Peyton Manning. Peyton, in terms of asking you, how do you feel? You've been through this emotional roller coaster for the last 13 days. It was 13 days ago that you had the press conference with Jim Irsay, and now you had one in Denver today. How do you feel?
Well, I'm relieved that this part is over, Rich. It's been interesting. It has been a roller coaster going back to the press conference in Indianapolis. I felt very fortunate that Mr. Irsay allowed he and I to have some closure, for me to have some closure with the Indianapolis Colts. Not many players get that, and so I felt fortunate about that. And I'm tired on these visits, going to see these different teams. I felt that was the only way to do it, was to really get to know the people and try to get a feel for the direction of their teams and organizations. And I tell you, Rich, I've met some great people during this trip. The NFL is in great shape. There's some great owners, coaches, executives out there, and this decision was hard. There was nothing that any other team did that made me not want to go there, and that's what made it so hard. And the Broncos were very upfront, honest with me the entire time. Coach Fox and John Elway answered all of my questions, gave me the direction of their future, of their organization, and I had to pick one. I wanted to go to all of them at one point, but like the other decisions I've made in the past, I decided to make it and not look back, and to go from now and make it the right decision. And so I have to go to work to make it the right decision, to be a Denver Bronco, and I know John Elway and Coach Fox and Mr. Bolin are going to help me in that process.
Well, in the few minutes that I have with you, Peyton, if you'll beg my pardon, and I want to pick your brain, since we've been trying to read it for the last 2 weeks, trying to read your mind throughout this entire process in the media. And there are a couple of theories that were out there during your decision-making process I'd love for you to possibly shed some light on, and one of them being that you didn't want to be in the NFC because you didn't want to see your bro in the playoffs until it's perhaps for the ultimate prize in the Super Bowl. Is that what might have counted against some NFC teams in your process?
Well, it's unfair to say that, because I wouldn't have had the discussions and the talks and the workout for the San Francisco 49ers if that were the case. I knew that San Fran was in the NFC, and when the two of us started to talk, I very easily could have seen myself being a 49er, and that's why it was so hard. I kept wanting for somebody just to tell me, hey, just tell me where to go. I mean, that NFL draft is not all bad, because you just go there and there's no choice. And so, having to be my choice, that got harder and harder, especially the more I got to know these people. Mike Munchak might be one of the greatest guys I've met in this entire process. I loved him. I loved Harbaugh. And so the more I got to know them, the harder it was to say no. And John Elway was right. When I called him Monday morning, it had been a rough morning for me, having already have called these other two teams, telling them that it wasn't going to happen. That was hard for me. But obviously I was excited to be able to tell Denver I was coming here, and I was glad to hear they were excited as well.
Was it the fact, when you were talking to the Titans, did it ever weigh on you that you would have had to go back in Indianapolis every year? And so many other quarterbacks who have been in that situation relish facing their former team. Would it have been a different sensation for you, and that sort of a way help you shy away from making a Tennessee Titans your next team?
Well, the same thing. When Mike Munchak called me and said, hey, we have an interest, but we want to know if you're interested, I knew what division they were in. And so I looked him in the eye and said, yes, there's an interest. I'd like to get to know you. Let's talk. And there's not one thing that Tennessee or San Francisco or Arizona or Miami or any of these teams did that made me not want to go play there. Matter of fact, all they did was give me great reasons why I knew I could be happy going to play there. I wanted to go to all of them at some point, Rich. I remember the same feeling when I was in high school. I wanted to go to Ole Miss, wanted to go to Florida, wanted to go to Michigan. You have to pick one. You have to pick, Michigan. Only because you were an alum. That's the main reason.
That's correct. Yeah, okay. I'll take that.
So it was, I'm telling you, it was difficult. And but I felt comfortable here in Denver. It's hard because when you say, what is it about Denver? People are going to say, well, that's what it wasn't about the other places. That's just not the case. I felt very comfortable here in Denver. I like Coach Fox a lot. I know he's hungry to win. Mr. Bowen was very direct and upfront about what he wanted to do. And I'm seeing John Elway in his role as an executive, and he has that same competitive desire that you saw when he had as a player. And so I'm just glad to be a part of that, looking forward to getting to know my teammates, and really looking forward, Rich, just to getting to work.
Last question for you, Peyton. Obviously, throughout this entire process, you've been all class, and we all know your respect for the game and the respect for the history of the game, respect for your colleagues, for sure. I've seen it firsthand at Pro Bowls and obviously covering you for years. Throughout this entire process, there have been many of your quarterback colleagues that have had their jobs essentially threatened just by the mere fact that teams were chasing you. You weren't seeking it out, but teams were chasing you. How difficult was it for you in this process to see friends, colleagues of yours, essentially being talked about as a plan B, even though they're currently the plan A?
I hated that. I hated that part of it. And I just didn't know how to, I mean, if we could have done it all underground, if I could have snuck into the Titans complex or visited with San Francisco and nobody would have known about it, that's the way I would have preferred. As we all know, it became very public and everybody wanted to know, and that's not the way I wanted it. But obviously I had to go play for another team. I still want to play, and other teams have quarterbacks there. And so that's been the worst part about this process. I know I will eventually talk to the quarterbacks of these other teams, and I sure hope they don't hold it personal against me, that it was the process of trying to get to know these teams, and that's probably been the worst part about it. But I have great respect for Matt and Jake and Alex and Tim, all these other quarterbacks. And, hey, it's the most unique fraternity around. I'm glad to be in the fraternity. And, hopefully that won't affect our relationships.
Peyton, appreciate the time. Congratulations on getting a new team and one that you're clearly comfortable and happy with, and best to your family. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Rich, thanks for having me.
You bet. That is Peyton Manning joining us on Broncos Cam on the day that he is introduced as the newest quarterback of the Denver Broncos, number 18 in orange now.